5.6 billion people in the world today. So 70% of the world's population have to hand wash clothes. And I was like, we need to fix this problem. We want to become the Dyson of the humanitarian world. Bearing in mind, Oxfam funded us when we didn't even have an idea of how to build them. And everyone thought I was making the biggest mistake of my career and my life. And I'm so proud that I get to wake up and do something that I love and support these people. So 30,000 people impacted positively in 7 countries. We've now, millions of pounds of funding and some incredible announcements coming later in the year.
Welcome to the Bay HQ, where we inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians. Smash that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube, and leave us a 5-star review if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. Today we have with us Nav, who's the founder of the Washing Machine Project. They're on a mission to give back the dignity of clean clothes. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks. What an introduction.
Thank you. I just stumbled over my words there. I don't know what happened there.
Okay.
So you've done your second ever live podcast today.
Yeah.
So, and you said our podcast got nicer lighting and stuff too, right?
Man, this is really stepping it up a notch, huh?
Yeah, but you've done some incredible work now, right? But when you're growing up, did you think you'd be one day coming onto a podcast like this to talk about what you've built?
No way, not at all. It's surreal. I pinch myself every single day. I'm really lucky that I'm on this journey of being this founder of an incredible organization like the Washing Machine Project. Thank you for having me on.
What did you think you would do when you were growing up?
When I was a kid, I wanted to become an astronaut. I think we're all going to become astronauts. My father was an aerospace engineer. He used to take me to air shows, so I'd be very curious with how these big aircrafts would go up into the sky. And then I would come back home. I would take the toolbox out of the shed and just break everything inside. And that used to really make my mum very angry because I'd never know how to put anything back together again. Seeing how things worked and, just opening things up was something that I did for my whole childhood. And then, going on and studying aerospace engineering at university was just like a natural transition. But my father unfortunately died when I was very, very young. I was 7 years old at the time, and my mum and my 2 sisters, they were older than me, single-handedly raised me. So I was really, really aware about my surroundings and how women influence my surroundings. And I knew from a very young age the importance of women in the household. So that really shaped my childhood and to my kind of later years in life.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know as well, so my dad passed away last year.
Yeah. So sorry to hear.
So I can relate obviously to what you're saying and the difficulty of going through it at such a young age and how that's probably affected you in so many ways now.
Incredible.
And even, for example, when you're building your own business, right? For me, I had my dad's help until like last year. So that gave me an advantage that obviously you didn't have.
Yeah.
That you had the strength of the women in your family to raise you and to get you to where you are today.
Yeah.
And when you went into engineering at university, then what was the plan after that?
Yeah, and I think, losing a parent at such a young age to then be brought up by some incredible women. I'm so lucky to have really influential experiences in my life that have formed my thinking and my way of life today. My condolences to you and your family. I studied engineering and I was obsessed at getting the next best graduate program. I don't think anyone equips you to apply for a job that you really care about. I think you just go to the company that gives the best pizza at the grad fair, free pens. And, I applied for hundreds and hundreds of jobs. And I landed one of the world's best graduate programs at Dyson. So I joined Dyson for what was almost 3 years of my time there, and incredible experience. I learned so much. I, met with the founder of Dyson many times to talk about ideas, and the kind of user-based experience of designing was great. But I realized 3 years into my career that every bit of good engineering that I was doing was just basically making a vacuum cleaner for a rich person. And I was like, am I going to do this for the rest of my life? I want my engineering to help people. I want my engineering to go further, to make real positive impact in the world. And I decided to quit my job. And
Did you have the idea already of what you were going to do, or did you just quit and think you're going to work it out?
yeah, it's a good question. I had been thinking about it for a few months. I applied for a position with a charity called Engineers Without Borders UK, and they sent me out to India to volunteer for a year and a half to make clean and efficient cooking stoves. Now, this problem affects 50% of the world's population who have to use solid fuel like wood and charcoal and dung to cook their food. So, 50% is either you or me right now. So imagine having to spend hours and hours a day breathing in this smoke. And that's the problem for half the world's population. You can imagine coming from a South Asian background, that having that conversation with your parents saying, you're not happy and you're not go work for free and give up your well-paid job to do something charitable. That did not land well in my household that week. I was so disappointing for the people around me, and everyone thought I was making the biggest mistake of my career and my life. Why am I doing this? And it's something that I wanted to do. I wanted to help people. I feel like we're put on this planet to make impact and support people. And so I found myself in September 2016 through to 2017 in this very small South Indian village called Kulapalayam. And I was staying in this village that didn't have very much running water. So only switched on 15 minutes a day at 6 a.m. I was never awake at 6 a.m. And it switched on 6 p.m. as well for 15 minutes. And I was always at work. So I was always used to miss water. And if you didn't have a generator, the power was always out, so days and days of blackouts. And you can imagine at a 40-degree temperature, it's so tough. And even cooling your food wasn't possible. And, I experienced that every single day. And as an engineer, I saw problems all over the place. Open defecation, buildings falling down, people lacking transport. And I was like, I can't believe this. I'm so lucky. And this experience was incredible. On Monday, we'd have an idea. On Tuesday, we would put this idea together. On Wednesday, we would put this idea into the field and get an auntie to test it out, this cook stove. And by Thursday, we'd realize if our cook stove was rubbish or not. And by Friday, we had to have a new idea. So this kind of iterative living, learning that we had was incredible. And that, coupled with the friendship that I had with my next door neighbor, completely changed my life. Divya was my next door neighbor. And she's a 30-something stay-at-home mum who got married at the age of 16, had 2 kids, and she spoke perfect English, learned at high school but never used since. And she used to spend hours and hours and hours a day on unpaid labor. We don't have to look very far and see in our own households and in our own communities how much of the unpaid labor is done by women. And that's not unique to just Divya or our communities. It's every single country across the world. Women are disproportionately affected, whether it's cooking, cleaning, childbearing. And this is something I saw so closely with Divya. Her life was an everyday struggle, whether it was foraging for wood, standing in line for water, or hand washing her family's clothes. And, we became best friends. My Tamil was rubbish. Her English was amazing. And every evening we would catch up outside her house, catch up on the day's activities. She'd complain about back pain, joint pain, skin irritation. And I said to Divya, why can't you just use an electric washing machine? I'll buy you one. She's like, Nav, electric washing machines don't work here. We don't have much running water. We don't have a generator. So that solution doesn't make sense. She wanted to work, but just didn't have the time. So that's where the promise was. That's where the penny dropped. That's when I realized that I wanted to do this for the rest of my life. I want to make products for people like Divya. And so I came home, I did some research, and I found that 5.6 billion people in the world today, so 70% of the world's population, have to hand wash clothes. And I was like, we need to fix this problem.
Yeah, and even if you go back for a second, you mentioned how obviously your mum and your sister instilled those values in you because you said you want to make a difference, you want to help people, right?
Yeah.
They put those values in you. But it's also, I think, a struggle for so many parents of they want also the best and this financial stability for their children too. And it's that tough thing of they obviously raised you to be the person you became, but they're worried about you, right?
Yeah.
And once you came back from India, how did that then go when you said, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? Did they see what you'd done and how passionate you were?
Yeah, I mean, they're still a bit skeptical. I remember having the idea of the washing machine project. What's that? Well, I want to create a manual washing machine because I want to make something for Divya, my next door neighbor, my best friend. And I remember at the time I was physically knocking on doors for people to give me attention. I was like, please, can I have a meeting with you to just show you what I have and my idea? And I want support and collaboration. And slowly, we built up credibility. I actually went back to university to study a degree in humanitarianism at the University of Bath.
That's where I went, yeah.
Shout out Bath. Amazing uni. Really helped the cause. I worked as well full-time at Jaguar Land Rover to provide a means to an end. And I remember working so hard on this idea, and I'd gather my friends around my mum's kitchen table with me probably once a week, once a month sometimes, and just brainstorm of how we can solve this problem. And we had this salad spinner in the corner, and we're like, maybe we can use the salad spinner technology, this gearing technology on a washing machine, a manual crank and a washing machine. And so those are the first ideas. And on my course, I had someone that worked in Iraq, a good friend of mine, and he said, why don't you bring your prototype to Iraq and come for the week and just test it out on people? And I'm like, yeah, sure. So my friend and I, Alex, we made this prototype in a couple of days, packed our clothes in the prototype, wrapped it up in plastic and took it on the plane to Iraq.
Did any questions get asked there?
So many questions. It looked so dodgy. But, we spent 7 full days in about 9 refugee camps in northern Iraq, in Kurdistan, and we interviewed 79 refugee families, Yazidi families. And that was the first experience that I had in the camp environment and testing this machine, and the feedback was amazing. People really understood the problem, wanted a solution, wanted a change, and we wrapped that up into a report, and Oxfam picked it up, and yeah, I guess the rest is history.
So once you went from that prototype, obviously you proved that it was helpful to people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you needed to get funding, or you needed to try to change that prototype into something which you could then scale and get across to all the people that needed it.
Yeah.
How did you go about that next phase?
I guess I was trying to engage with other people that were frustrated like me, maybe a few years before me. I realized that, I'm working in this big corporate making, £500 vacuum cleaners, and I was frustrated and I wanted to help someone. And I knew lots of my friends wanted to help as well. So I capitalized on this by engaging with volunteers. So I said to my friends and the community around me, I said, you have so many good skills that are needed on this mission, on this organization, the Washing Machine Project. I would love for you to support us. So in the very early days, we would have people volunteering their time 10, 15, 20 hours a week to come out to build machines. We publicized it on UB1, UB2, and we had loads of people come out.
For people that don't know as well, that's Southall, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
base there, yeah.
I mean, if you're Asian, you'll probably know what UB1, UB2 is. We publicized it on UB1, UB2, and we had 50 people turn up to build machines to go to Iraq for Oxfam's pilot. Bearing in mind, Oxfam funded us when we didn't even have an idea of how to build them. So I think the lesson there is, just say yes and figure out how you're going to do it later. I think the sense of community and building that organization on volunteers that want to make a difference, was really the heart and soul of the organization.
Could you give us an idea as well of like the progress since then, right? Because you've now built so many machines and affected so many people.
Yeah.
Can you let us know, the listeners know, where is this now?
Yeah. I mean, so we started in 2019. So we're now sitting and having this conversation in 2023. There was a pandemic in between that.
Really?
Yeah. That was a blur, huh? Yeah, so 30,000 people impacted positively in 7 countries. We've now announced multiple corporate partnerships, millions of pounds of funding, a small and growing team, and some incredible announcements coming later in the year. So that being said, featured on 500 news outlets around the world a few months ago, being awarded an award by the Prime Minister, and just my mum being happy with what we're doing, which is a good thing as well.
Is she now claiming that she told you to do it? And then she's like, oh, this is all my idea.
She's like, Nav, where did you get this? Like, how did you? But she's really, really supportive. And I caught her catching, like, the person delivering a package to the doorstep. Like, she managed to show an article to this guy. I'm like, so embarrassed.
But it's incredible progress, right? You can see why sort of as proud as she is. But I know, like, what I imagine is that your dream is even bigger than that, right? Yeah. What's your long-term dream, or what do you want to achieve overall?
Yeah, and I think, we travel everywhere. So last year we were in 27 countries, and we go to refugee camps, rural areas, urban areas, built-up environments, and we see problems everywhere. From refugee camps that have only been designed to be around for 6 months, have been around for 20 years. So you can imagine all the infrastructure challenges, plus the generations on generations on generations of people that are just living on top of one another. And we feel that there's a gap. We feel that the current products that are being developed, the vacuum cleaners, the refrigerators, the cook stoves, the washing machines, are not fit for purpose. These are products that you and I and many others who are listening to this podcast have taken for granted for hundreds of years. And people like Divya and Kausek, a refugee mother in Lebanon, mother of 10, who I met in a camp on the border of Syria, struggle with on a day-to-day basis. It denies them opportunities to work, rest, and go to school. And we want to become the Dyson of the humanitarian world. We see problems everywhere. We want to keep innovating. And, when we look back at this conversation in 5 to 10 years' time, we'll be laughing at the time we only made washing machines.
So I feel like my arms got goosebumps there.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine this, like, it sounds like a grand vision, but you've got exactly all the capabilities and the skills needed to do it, and the passion as well. As you've been scaling up, like you mentioned the refugee camps a few times there, right? And I can imagine going to it for the first time has been so difficult.
Yeah.
And how did you deal with that when you're going and you're seeing, like, yes, there's a washing machine problem and you're solving that. But as you said, you see all these other problems too. How do you kind of keep going to these environments and seeing those problems and keeping yourself going forwards? Because obviously it must be tough for you too, right? Like you said, you've come from a relatively privileged background.
Yeah.
And how do you keep going back and keep seeing that pain and knowing?
There's a narrative that's like that I've absorbed throughout my life through news and through stories of other people who've gone to these places. And when I went to Iraq and Jordan and Lebanon and other places like this for the first time, I realized how normal things are. Yes, there's a battle or a war or a conflict going on very close to probably where that refugee camp is, and there's so much suffering that these people have gone through. But these people do not want a handout. They don't want sympathy. They want empathy. They want opportunity. They want to work. And this is a very small phase in their long lives. And unfortunately, they find themselves in these situations. And this could be you and me. And we are so lucky. And I'm so blessed to have the skills to help. So why shouldn't I? And we have such a small time on this earth. And maybe this is because of my father dying so young. When I was so young, did I realize this? But, if not now, then when? And having these conversations with these people who, it's even hard to talk about struggles of abuse, sexual violence, people just losing everything, livelihoods, families, friends that are still missing, and still smiling and still want to engage and want to talk to you. Yeah, so much respect for these people, and I just want to keep supporting them in any way, shape, or form.
I think a lot of people, it holds them back because they're worried about if they go to these environments, are they going to be able to cope? But like you said, even though there is all that darkness there is all that hope too. And it's whenever I've talked to people who've been through some like really dark things, which we can't even imagine, somehow this is the human resilience, right? And I think we can sometimes underestimate how resilient humans are.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's about helping them, not about pitying them or anything like that, because they're so strong to still be where they are.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, I was in Lebanon, on the border of Syria, and I went to this camp called Al Yasmin camp, and this lady was sharing this tent with 15 of her family members. This is a tent that's designed for 6 people, by the way. And, she's a middle class lady who had a house with a garden in Syria and now finds herself in this tent. And she was so excited to show me her garden at the back of the tent. So she and a few of her neighbors recreated a water feature, and they started growing some herbs. So they realized that, they might never go back home. And so how do they make what they have around them the home that they will grow up in? And there's children that have no different of suffering that they're going through right now. And it's just amazing how life carries on and how resilient these people are. And it inspires me every day. And I'm so proud that I get to wake up and do something that I love and support these people.
Listening, hearing your story, I'm thinking, they want to do something like that. Maybe it's not engineering, they've got other ways they want to help.
Yeah.
In terms of like the logistics and the operation, like how do you get to these kind of camps, and how do you like network to be able to do this kind of thing? How does that all work? Because to me, that would seem like such a intimidating thing. Like, how do I get to a refugee camp? How would I go and work with these people?
Yeah. And I guess, what I do a lot of these talks, and my first advice to people is, if you want to help, you don't need to go to faraway places to help. You probably walk past a homeless person or someone that's going through some really tough period in their life through mental health or disability or political struggles, or a refugee on the streets today that needs your support. I often give this example where, you could make a ride-hailing app or a dating app in the UK, in London, but with the same set of skills, you could support someone with an app that's fleeing the conflict in Sudan right now, or a Ukrainian refugee family seeking legal support in Germany. Those are the same coding skills, very different application. Everyone needs support, and local communities are crying out for people like you to support them. So please do help them. But in terms of trying to organize a refugee camp visit or a field research project, I think the COVID really helped with that. Before that, we would, try and go to these camps by ourselves and do lots of questionnaires and a needs-based assessment, we called it. But actually empowering local people, local organizations, local students, a really amazing untapped skill in that area, to do the work, to support you, because they know the language, they know the lay of the land, they have the access, and they're the best people. So we engage with local grassroots organizations to do our work. We don't give washing machines or provide solutions to people who don't need them. So we spend a lot of time trying to identify need, and then we stay for a long time afterwards, 3 to 6 months afterwards, to see if people are using it. So it's working, and we're scaling that, and more partners are coming on board to help with that.
What have been some of the toughest things about that journey, right? So obviously trying to scale then, for example, like understanding which local community leaders and people like that to use.
Yeah.
How did you get to where you are today, where you've been able to scale it? What were some of the mistakes you had to make along that way to learn from?
Yeah, I think firsthand, getting the credibility and the attention that this problem deserves, right? So I don't think anyone really realized how big this problem is. 5.6 billion people in this world today have to go to a lake, river, and stream to wash their clothes by hand. That is crazy. As we sit in this plush studio today recording this podcast, that really frustrates me. I want more and more people to know about that, but not many people do. And that was the really tough thing to get across, the problem. And then building a team that's kind of dedicated, gets the mission, gets our values, and has the skills, and also eager to learn. That's also been a real challenge. And I made some mistakes earlier on by giving opportunities to people that are closest to me. And maybe that's not the best way to have done it, but you need to make these mistakes to grow. And now it's navigating, creating a product is one thing, but actually getting it to a very rural part of Uganda or India or Mexico or Ukraine or Lebanon is the toughest thing that you'll ever imagine. I'm sure people can imagine that.
So it's been great to chat to you today and learn about all the story and what you've been doing. And I do hope as well in 5-10 years time, you are the Dyson of the developing world and to help those people that need it. So first question of the quickfire round is, who are 3 British Asians that you'd love to shout out for the great work they're doing, anything people listening should be paying attention to?
Sure, yeah. I think in the spirit of the Washing Machine Project and women empowerment, 3 amazing Asian founders that are female that I think are absolutely killing it right now. Henna Hussain, who's the founder and CEO of Content Architect. So she's developed this SaaS platform where businesses and social media influencers never miss a date. So whether it's Meghan Markle's court case or an interview or the King's coronation, she'll always keep you in check for your social media needs. Manjeet Kaur, the founder CEO of Seek Colouring Book. She is an illustrator, publisher who's created these really amazing books that illustrate the founding of Sikhism, Gurmukhi, and some stories, and gets kids and adults involved into colouring. Amazing initiative. And a bit off-piste, a lady called Amrit Kaur, who's a singer. She was BBC's one of the up-and-coming artists on the BBC, and I just heard her last week at Vaisakhi Mela, London. I was crying at her performance. So 3 really amazing entrepreneurs, founders, people that are just doing really cool things.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love the shout out to women there because, like you said, they've had such an impact on you growing up and to many of us growing up, right? Not just people who've lost their fathers. So many of us in the Asian backgrounds, our mums are so important to us and sisters, and it's trying to help those people that have helped us, right? And next one is, if people right now are listening and are seeking advice or guidance, what would you be able to help them with?
Me personally, what I would be able to help? Yeah. So I think I learned this earlier on, which is falling in love with the problem, because the solution will always change. So the solution of a manual washing machine will change in the future, but the problem of people hand washing clothes is always going to stay the same. And that's the thing that you need to fall in love with. That's the thing that's going to get you through, the 4 a.m.s, the not making payroll for the team, the whether the runway is going to be met in 6 months' time. That waking up every day and going after that problem is my biggest piece of advice for anyone that's trying to start something.
And then on the other side, if people listening right now might be able to help you, what could they help you with?
I think just talking about the washing machine project, today, if you've heard this podcast, tell someone that didn't know about the washing machine project, sharing it on socials. And you can also, if you feel generous enough, to donate a washing machine to someone who really needs it, whether it's Divya or Kausek or a 14-year-old girl called Patricia, who we gave a machine to in an orphanage in Uganda in November last year, someone that fainted whilst hand washing clothes. And so, just give generously and tell someone about the washing machine project.
So thanks so much for coming on, and congratulations on all the amazing work you're doing. Have you got any final words to the audience?
If not now, then when?
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us. And we don't think you realise how important you are. Because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes the world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission. And you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.